All right, guys, welcome to the first episode in this classroom of nutrition. We're going to go through everything from the basics all the way to the complicated. And today's lesson is about the building blocks of nutrition. So, nutrition explained, macronutrients, the very, very basics, and just having a good understanding of like if someone goes to you, what's nutrition? You actually have an answer, right? So, what is nutrition? Nutrition is the process in which substances within by which substances within food are transformed into the body where they're utilized to provide energy. Nutrients are essential for bodies to live and grow, brain function, digestion, immune system, everything along with that. So it's really important. If you don't have nutrition, malnutrition kills you. So we really want to focus on improving nutrition wherever possible. There's main building blocks of nutrition that I like to think about. There's a total calories that you eat, the macros that you eat, the micros that you consume, and then the hydration and minerals that come around it. This is like everything that gives nutrients to the body in one way or another, whether that be directly coming from it, like food, or facilitating it, like water, for example. All of these things lead to a balanced diet all around, and that's ultimately the end point of where we're at, right? Is doing a balanced diet. So the basic components of nutrition here, we've got macronutrients and micronutrients, and then water, pretty much, right? So protein is obviously, you guys know, the building blocks of muscle protein synthesis, the building of new protein, the building of new muscle. You'll find them in animal products, meats, eggs, egg whites, yogurt, anything that comes from an animal, honestly, is pretty good protein. And you can get some from vegetables as well, but you'd have to be like stacking some together to get a complete amino acid profile. But that is for another day. Amino acid profiles for now. Protein builds muscle, mostly in meat. Pretty simple. Carbohydrates are the main energy source that we have available especially when we're looking at like physique training or like training in the gym. That is very carbohydrate dense. So you'll find them in whole grains, that you guys know them: rices, pulses, grain, oats, potatoes, things like that. Micronutrients, so both vitamins and minerals are vital for immune and bodily functions. They help brain health, digestion. They just help things tick along. So ignoring them, you can ignore them, but you'll face the deficiency issues. You guys have heard like scurvy if you're not having enough vitamin C, like cracks in your skin and stuff. Like, not that everything causes that, but that is an example of like if you don't attend to those things, you might have those issues. And some of those issues you can't always feel, right? Which is why it's even more important to cover them, because you can't always feel that you're not covering them. Things like vitamin D, you can't necessarily feel that, but you get a blood test and then you can see. So nutrition, obviously nutrition gives us energy for daily activity. Nutrients contribute to, hormones, skin health, hair health. Doing anything requires energy, literally anything. Doing this right now, I need energy, brain energy and anything. So this is how important it is. Obviously, it supports the growth and development, whether that be new muscle, brain tissue, learning. All of it like supports it. Obviously helps maintain the body functions, metabolism, breathing. All of that requires calories, digestion. So it literally makes the world go round. Poor nutrition, poor hormones, poor system functions. So it's obviously really important. And then of course, like hydration, we're obviously like 80% water. So you need to be hydrated, and obviously electrolytes come along with that, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. Obviously it prevents and manages diseases as well. So when we are malnourished, your immune system's compromised potentially a little bit. So you're a little bit more subject to colds, flus, issues, and that is something that we want to be very mindful of, and obviously not ignore when we don't need to. So we'll go into macros a little bit more here, a bit more specifically. So you got protein. Obviously, this is the building blocks of muscle protein and muscle building and repair. Enough protein is like a minimum. We usually go for like a gram per pound, which we'll talk about in a minute. But obviously the main sources, which we talked about earlier, those are going to be those animal products. But another thing about protein that's quite kind of interesting is it's the most satiating macronutrient, so it's going to keep you the fullest for the longest. It's also got the highest thermic effect of feeding, so it uses the most calories to burn through compared to the other macros as well. And protein has 4 calories per gram. So if you do 250 grams of protein, there's 1,000 calories. My general recommendations is like 1 to 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. If you're like a really big person with a lot of fucking muscle and you're maybe on steroids, maybe you're pushing towards 1.5. I'm about 1.3 because I'm not quite big enough just yet. But most of my clients and most of you guys watching this, you'll be on about a gram, pretty much, maybe just above. And it'll be just above sometimes in dieting phases, just because it'll be just above in dieting phases because it's satiating, of course, and it might be just above in off seasons because you've got more protein coming from other parts of your diet. I think with recommendations for protein, I do recommend 3+ meals a day so we can stimulate muscle protein synthesis throughout the day. It's been shown to kind of help just muscle repair. And then like a minimum of about 30 grams of protein per meal. That's just because there's like a minimum of like that 2 grams, which is a nice magical number of leucine, which is the building blocks for like EAAs, essential amino acids, which is that main one for building muscle. And if you wanted to put this into practice at various levels, you could do the beginner level here, just try and hit 1 to 1.5 5 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Just try to get over 3 meals. Ramp it up a little bit, minimum 4 meals, and then have them all from whole proteins. And then obviously at the optimal level, 5 meals a day, split evenly, whole proteins, intra EAs as well, and you can take it to that next level. Fats, everybody loves fats. I mean, I do, that's for sure. It's the primary source of energy storage. So this is kind of like your excess energy. Once carbohydrates are done, you would store this fat, and that's when you'd use it, which is why often people talk about fasted cardio working, because it burns through glycogen stores and then in theory burns into fat stores. Don't take that as you need to do fasted cardio. It's more of a theory. It's not really plausible. That's where it comes from. Obviously, oils, butters, avocados, nuts, nut butters, high fat salmons, red fish, like meaty fish, those types of things are going to be where you're going to get them from. Olives. The thing about fats is they come with 9 calories per gram, so you can see already these are going to be like a lower macronutrient, just because, like a lower amount of them, because they're so much higher in calories. I'd always say when you are getting fats, I'll try to get them from as many whole sources as possible, rather than just like the gram or two of fat that gets in yogurt, the gram or two that comes in a rice cake, for example. I'd rather you get like, a good 10 grams of fat from almond butter or avocado. That's my goal anyway, but obviously it's not like always possible. And then just split it evenly per day. There's no real reason to go any heavier. If you fancy like having a fat heavier meal in the evening because you want some variety, that's fine, but I'm not really worried. And generally in an off season, I aim for 10 grams of fat per 100 grams of carbohydrates. And I would keep your fats at a minimum of 40 to 50 grams. You guys might have noticed, who are watching this. I don't like going below 50, 40 sometimes. I don't like going below 40 very often. Has done, but not very often. Carbohydrates now, the yummy ones. These are the ones that help us perform, help us recover. So they're very important, which is why we want to prioritize them over everything. This is going to be the most heavy of the calories. Still only 4 calories per gram, but we're going to have the most grams of it. Carbs can be complex. They can be simple. Complex, potatoes, things like that. Simples could just be like donuts, drinks, sugary drinks, things like that. The most well-known examples of general things in bodybuilding, fitness, obviously, rice, bagels, cereals, fruit, but also like fruit, vegetables, condiments, other things to think about, which maybe you don't always. And they normally come in the form of like sugar and those additives. Sometimes you'll get like a bolognese sauce and it's got 400 calories in it. And you're like, how is that even? Oh, it's the sugar. Our recommendations for carbohydrates are, work it up. So essentially figure out your protein, which is 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight. We know we don't want to go below 40 or 50 grams of fat, so you put that in, and then the rest of your calories would be carbohydrates based off wherever you're going to be. I would say that 75 to 85% should come from whole grains, or single ingredient foods like potatoes, rice, bagels are okay. Not too much bread, but like those like where you should aim for things from, and then the rest of it, a little bit of simple, a little bit of fruit, a little bit of vegetables. I'm not worried, honestly. I have a little bit of honey. I have cereal bars sometimes. A little bit of Flavor Flav, never hurt anyone, right? Simple carbs are not always the enemy. This is what I mean here. Like, they just kind of give less. Like, imagine taking out, this is why I put the jam strawberry, like 100 grams of strawberries. It's like 15 carb. That's like 20 grams of honey. That's on a spoon. I wish I had a spoon here, but a little teaspoon, that's 20 grams of honey versus a whole batch of strawberries. It's just the bang for your buck isn't quite there. which in the off season it is because you want that food, so you can do that when the food's much higher. Focus a large portion of those carbohydrates post workout. So let's say you had like 400 carb. I'd say like 75 to 100 carb post workout would be good. The reason why is because we have an upregulation of a glucose transporter enzyme, which is essentially just a glycogen transporter enzyme. Glucose is basically glycogen, which is carbohydrates. So you know, it kind of makes sense, right? You train hard, you create a demand for energy, and then you just feed it basically because you have that ability to upregulate it. So you might always find when I plan meal plans or I give you macros, or maybe sometimes I'll suggest you try put a bit more post workout. And a good way you could do this, beginner wise, just have 75 to 100 grams post workout. If you wanted to take carbohydrates even further, 25 to 50 pre, 75 to 100 post. Even further, 25 to 50 pre, 25 intra, then 75 to 100 post. Obviously, all of it depends if you've got the calories available, but you can see how there's like levels to it. Not every level works. One level is just a bit more optimal, right? So that's kind of like how it is. So hopefully that makes sense. So macronutrients summarized in the last slide on this one. These aren't going to be too long lectures, hopefully, but nutrition is essential for everything. You know, you want the right balance of macronutrients, but also micronutrients, right? So it's important that you do supplement omegas if you don't eat enough fish. If you don't have enough vegetables, try and bring it up. If you don't have enough colors or fiber, try and bring that up. You know, it goes along with even things like water and salt and minerals, which we'll talk about in the next lesson. But at the moment, think about the protein that you're eating. Obviously, the guys watching this at the moment, maybe in the future, some of you will not be coached by me, but you know, your protein's already in a good place, your carbohydrates are in a good place, and your fats are in a good place. It's just about like keeping that balance as you go. So, guys, we'll see you in the next lesson. See you soon.